Good evening and welcome to Get Out and Grow, the gardening and Q&A from Expats Portugal and the Fresh Air team here, the Fresh Air team. You can see on the right of your screen. Over there in England, John and Anna, how are you guys this evening?
Hello.
Yeah.
And over here in Portugal, in Lisbon, Head Gardener Mr McGrady, here he is as well, back out in the open air in his natural environment, the wild gardens of Portugal. How are you, Lee?
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, you're a different man. I can tell you're a different man. Now you've been back out from your quarantine and you're feeling better, but you said you were a bit tired. You've been catching up.
Yeah, it's been a busy few days, so
wow,
a bit non-stop at the moment.
I see you've got your traditional gardener's brew in hand. So this is a chance to sit down for a moment and have a chat about what's going on in the garden. Have a brew, have a natter, and any questions you've got. Look, any questions for the head gardener, Lee McGrady, who is a professional gardener in and around Lisbon. Just put them in the comments and we will be glad to ask them on your behalf. We've had a great week in the group, the Get Out and Grow and a Happy Homesteaders group. Anna's been asking some great questions in there. Before we go to those and some other questions that have come in, I know Gary's asked a question or two and he sent some pictures in even, which is great. Let's see what we've been up to, if anything, because I think the weather's still been against us. John, have you managed to set foot, or you still been that kind of cat of a man sat on the back doorstep thinking, I'm not going out there?
Well, I beat out. I beat out maybe to put sort of crusts of bread out for the birds, to be honest. So that's been kind of the extent of, trying to help the wildlife, but also just being a bit of a weather wimp, to be honest. But
same here, mate. Same here. I've discovered what a fair weather gardener I am in this last week, despite all my promises. But never mind. You've done a great job there, helping the wildlife. What sort of birds do you get in your garden?
All sorts. We get like wood pigeons, and then we get the smaller birds as well. So yeah, mix.
Any squirrels?
Occasionally.
They can be rascals, can't they? Nicking everything from everybody else. Okay. Well, he's got a solution for that. Squirrel stew, but possibly by the sound of it, not a lot of meat on them. Only joking, everybody. No, not meaning to offend anybody. Anna, how's your gardening week been?
Yeah, it's been okay. I got out today. I think I've had one of those reality checks, because I think it's mostly weather. I sort of went out there and it's let's just say post winter, not quite spring yet. So there's a whole load of stuff to take out, and I've been mostly trying to get rid of a whole load of brambles at the moment, because I've been told that's a good job to keep an eye on. So I was trying to take a whole load of brambles out. The compost heap is taking quite a while to go down, I have to say, but it might just be weather. It's a little bit of a tall compost heap at the moment, so I might need to see to that at some stage. And otherwise it's not looking too bad. I've just been sort of trying to keep an eye on it when I can. Fortunately, the weather was okay, so I have to see how it is in the week, and and when it's and I haven't seen an awful lot of colour out there at the moment, though we have got a few small daffodils out the front, because we've got a bit of a flower bed up alongside of the driveway, so we've got a few small daffodils coming up, which is a good sign.
Beautiful. Always nice to see the daffodils, isn't it? The first signs of spring in the UK. Terrific. Let's ask Mr McGrady how his first week back out in the gardens have been. A little view into the life of a professional gardener. I hear you've been laying lawns, Lee.
I've been seeding lawns.
Beg your pardon.
I've been
difference, isn't there?
Yes, it's a big difference. I always prefer to seed a lawn. I feel it. You get a better choice with what grasses you want, what seeds you're using, and it's more fun. It's more fun. It takes a few weeks, but it's much more fun.
Yeah. So you're impeded by a pretty severe storm that we had over the weekend here in Portugal, right?
When was it? Saturday or Sunday? Saturday. It was fantastic. It was horrendous. It was the streets were running like rivers. It was brilliant. Not great for my newly seeded lawn, but great for everything else.
What, the power of nature? Power of nature.
Yeah, it's good to
All
look
right.
out the window and watch.
And as you might say up in Yorkshire, hotel sladding garden.
I missed that. I didn't hear you. Sorry, mate.
Was it because I was trying to talk in Yorkshire? What I said was hotel St Garden, lad. What I meant
Hotels. Well, hotels, aye. Aye, lad. Aye, plenty going on. Well, it's time for, in Portugal, it's time for getting your seeds in now for your vegetable garden. There's a few people with heated greenhouses that have already started and are well on the way. But for us paupers who can't afford a heated greenhouse, this is the week to start. So hopefully I'll be starting with mine tomorrow. I might make a little video if I get a chance.
Terrific.
And start with chilies and me tomatoes, I think, first. And then move on to the peas and beans and the onions after that.
Fantastic, fantastic. Fiona's here as well. I'm sure she'll tell us what she's been planting this week as well. And we'll catch you up on where we are in the progress with the no-dig versus traditional gardening approach between Fiona and Lee. A Facebook user, I'm thinking it might be from over there in the States. Happy planting, y'all. Definitely from the States, from California. Californian greetings to us all. Bon dia, alegria from Virginia Larson over there in California. How exciting is that? Any questions, Virginia, or any questions, observations, Fiona? Feel free. Fiona's an experienced gardener, so she will chip in if anyone's got any comments or questions tonight, I'm sure as well. For my personal report from the garden this week, like I say, very fair weather. Not as much as I would have liked to have done. Still a lot of fun being out there with the little lamb and the sheep and the chickens. I think I'm more of a livestock man than a veg man, as it turns out. The eggs have been extraordinary. The chickens have gone completely free range around the garden because Donna Grassa here and her 2 sheep and the lamb, she kind of has been sending them out over contained parts of the land so that they can trim beneath the grapevines and stuff like that. And then she sent the chickens out after the sheep as well. And I'm sure the chickens are getting bigger by the day with all the foraging that they're doing. And they are hugely productive as well. The egg laying has gone up, I think, possibly by a third, possibly a double at times, with them being able to go where they want to. The difference is remarkable. Did you recognise that pattern, Lee?
Well, I've never owned chickens personally, but I know a lot of people that have. And they always say that the free-range chickens in the spring increase weight and just look better. They just look healthier.
Yeah, magnificent.
And apparently, you can tell the difference in the eggs as well. You get a better quality egg, which makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, indeed.
If an animal's free-range, you just get a better quality of egg.
Yeah, they're happy scratching around. Yep, it's like I said before, it's like a ladybird book outside here at the moment.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
So apart from that, look at this, Lee. I followed your guidance, and they are going a bit mouldy in there, but I don't think that's a big problem. But look at the growth on these garlics that you encouraged me to plant.
They are fantastic. They're better than mine.
Are they? So I need to get them in the ground, do I now?
Don't know what you've done with them, mate. Don't know what's happened there.
It's the old green thumbs. It's the Munson green thumbs. I've done something right. The other promise I made. Sorry, go on.
They need to be in the ground, I think, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that. The other thing I promised to put in the ground is my old shoo that I was singing the praises of. Look, what's this called? A tendril or a feeler or whatever it's thrown out?
Yeah, a feeler. Yeah.
And to me, this kind of shows you the power and glory of nature. On the one side of it, it looks a bit like a shoo. On the other side, it's shriveled to rotting. And still, the power of nature is there. It just wants to be in the ground now, doesn't it? And sending those shoots out and climbing up.
But it's the right time of year.
Perfect.
It's the right time of year as well.
Still on my to-do list. The other thing I wanted to ask you, my first question to you, I'm chopping up red peppers. I made a lovely shepherd's pie yesterday, put half a red pepper in it, and I'm seeing all those seeds in there. Because we talk about... So what should I do? What's the best treatment for those bad boys then?
Put them on a piece of kitchen towel. Just let them dry out for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then you can use them in your potting. You can use them in your seed trays.
Okay, but a bit of a dry first.
Yeah, just let them dry out first. Just put them on a bit of kitchen roll first and leave them at windowsill.
All right.
Not everybody does that. A lot of people just put them directly into the soil, but I like to dry them out. It gets rid of any fleshiness. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I just like to dry mine out. Yeah.
Okay, good. I will do that. I'll take that on this week as well and add that to my list and challenge myself. The better weather's really going to help. I'm sure. Virginia.
Sorry, I just let you know. I did all my chilies and peppers last year were from shop bought chilies and peppers. I didn't buy any seeds for the chilies and peppers. They were all straight out of the plants I'd bought from the shop, straight into the ground.
Very good. Okay. Yeah, because I guess in a consumer world, you think you have to buy everything, don't you? You're conditioned to do that. And we probably overlook a lot of things we could use from the garden scraps and then go out and we chuck that in the bin and then go and buy the seeds that we threw away effectively. So that's crazy.
Some people do it with tomatoes. But I found you can never really guarantee the type you're going to get. So I prefer to buy my tomatoes in packets. But quite a few people do take the seeds out of Tom's. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So it's worth experimenting. And like we always say as well, great stuff to do with the kids. Because if you get them to chop the fruit and veg up and they put that to one side on the kitchen roll and stick it in some compost, some soil, then they're going to see the fruit of their labours, literally, aren't they? Great question from Virginia. And this is one for you, Lee. We plan to retire to Portugal in about 2 to 3 years. Once we find our abode, what criteria do we use to select a good gardener to hire? So how would you answer that?
My favourite question. I'd simply say choose an Englishman.
Obviously.
It's in the UK, there's a definite divide between professional gardeners and men with vans.
Yes.
And that divide is even bigger here in Portugal. 95% of my customers had a gardener and I've seen my advertisements as a professional gardener and have come to me for professional quality of work. And they're happy to pay a little bit more for the service. Right, I would recommend if you're looking for a gardener, make sure you're paying tax. Make sure they're insured.
Yes.
And ask to see the qualifications for any use of chemical.
Okay.
I charge tax on everything I do. I don't do any cash work. Everything goes through the books. Make it official. A lot of the lads that work in my area all work for cash.
Yeah.
If they're cutting corners they're cutting corners with everything.
Interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. Ask to see professional qualification. If you're paying professional prices, you want to see that they're qualified.
Yeah.
And anybody that is will have access to the paperwork.
Yeah.
And the insurance is a definite one.
Yeah.
Definitely make sure the company's insured. Yeah. And ask to see the documents. And if they've got them, like I have, there'll be no issue with showing you.
Good point there, Lee. And I think you're making the distinction, aren't you, between garden clearance, which sometimes passes as gardening. These are the fellas with the vans who'll just come in and lay waste to your garden and tidy it up. But they're not really interested in the planting and growing schemes or anything like that, are they? They're just tidying it up.
Well, they can do a lot of damage in half an hour with the set of vegetables if they don't know what they're doing. They can set you. One of my customers had she showed me a photograph of a beautiful buddleia tree, and the guy with a van came and hacked it down to knee height for no reason at all, just to make himself fill his time out. And when she asked him why he did it, he had no reason for doing it. He said he'd be there for a certain amount of time, and because he was there, he just cut it down. She was heartbroken with it, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Okay.
But with all the gardeners here having watering systems and the electric not being buried to the correct depth and the gas not being buried to the correct depth, insurance is a big thing here.
Okay.
If I go through somebody's water system with a spade that's only 16 inches under the ground, they want to know that it's covered.
Yes.
So
and not just in water. Okay, there you go, Virginia. There's your criteria. That's a great answer, Lee, and no wonder that's your favourite question. Go on, John.
I was just say it's quite interesting, like some of the dodgier stuff that I've seen. It's like on it was one of these dodgy builder workman television programs, and they literally they had a secret camera of this. It was a cowboy gardening firm that they were focusing on, and they had footage of this guy, like he was up a tree, they were cutting down a tree, but he was using the saw on the same branch that he was balancing on to cut. So, and it was quite high up the tree, this branch that he was cutting it as well, whilst sort of sitting on it.
Silly fool. You know you've hired the wrong guy when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy planting, yo, must come from Carmen. Carmen Sosa over there in the Azores. Wonderful interview with Carmen a couple of weeks ago on the morning show, and she's saying Azores, young man. So that's the giveaway. That'll be Carmen over there. He's very interested in doing some seed swapping. Looking forward to going on that journey with you, Carmen. We've answered your question there, Virginia, and Jason is here with us tonight. Jason Hall, good evening, Jason. Nice to have your company. Fiona says, total newbie when it comes to growing in Portugal. Year 2 in the country and only year 1 on this particular land. So everything to... There's another question in that, isn't there? You know, how quickly should you get planting, or should you just observe for a year? She says, this week I've been potting up... And you always think, don't you, of that sketch? This week I have been mainly potting up herbs in mixed for gifts, putting fig and weeping willow rooted cuttings into recycled tool bags. First California Ghost, may have mixed up the name. Chili seedling has popped up. Oh, how lovely to see that. Blueberries halved and planted in tubs under glass. A few small spuds in, and more beans seedlings, only 5 planted out. But you still get a load off that, won't you? 5 bean seedlings, still a big harvest potentially. Plus a bit of back-breaking digging out a spring to refit pipe, which had been pulled out in a storm, and the access to said spring had collapsed. Yes, a busy week for Fiona there. Blooming heck. Virginia says, John, responding to your comment, saw that tree branch cutting video, a sure candidate for the Darwin Awards.
Yeah.
Okay, superb. Gaza's here as well. Need some advice on what to plant in the photos. The planter on the patio is full sun and grew lettuce last year. The planter in the backyard is in shade, and the veg patch is mixed shade, sun in the afternoon, grew cabbage, potatoes, and butternut squash. Okay, we'll come back to those because I know that Anna asked some cracking questions in the group. Do you want to go through some of those, Anna, and some of the answers? Oh, we got you muted there, Anna. Sorry. You need to unmute yourself. It wasn't me.
Yeah, so I'm just going to this one. I'll see if I can do this. Share my screen. Share screen. Have I got it? Oh, it's doing this again. Hopefully this is going to come up with the right screen. No, it's not. Yeah.
If it's so on, Anna, it might be best not to share it. So just read it out at your end, so we don't. Yeah. So we can protect the innocent. There is some.
Zip off the screen a second. Yeah. I was just going to say, I know one of the questions I sort of put out for the group recently was the are there any rituals or traditions that anyone has? And Lee, do you have any in particular, or is there so much gardening to do? It's hard to choose one.
I talk to plants. That's my really only oddity that I do. Talk to plants. I like to pet them on the way past. Sounds strange, but when you've worked on your own a lot, you get favourite plants in the garden, and yeah, people look at you strange when you're saying good morning to your rose bush on the way past. That's my only reason.
What other things do you say, Lee? If people want to do the same, I mean, are there certain things that are better to say than others?
Well, I think it's nice to talk politely to them. I don't need to shout them. Right. There was a thing on Radio 4 many years ago, about talking to cows and playing Radio 4 to cows and producing more milk.
Yeah.
And there was a similar thing with plants in greenhouses. And it's to do with the carbon that you're letting out when you're talking. It's to do with the oxygen levels. It won't make very much of a difference. But when you're in a greenhouse all day, or when you're stuck on your own all day working outside, you do tend to drift away with the fairies and talk to plants. It's not a bad thing.
Marvelous. Okay. Well, you're among friends here, Lee. I got no problem with that. I think I might start doing a bit more of that myself. Oh, and you're right. Polite.
That was me. I've done it for years.
But be polite and loving and encouraging to the little guys and girls.
In one of the questions that you asked during the week, it was something along them. And I mentioned that I used to work in a park where we had a huge honeysuckle that had grown up over an old building, and it always flowered around my birthday. So that was my favourite plant in the park. And I used to always say hello to it on the way past. And I was going past one day, and the new gardener, this is 15 years later, the new gardener was there looking at it. And we got talking. He didn't know me really. He knew my name, but not of me. And we were just laughing that he did exactly the same. He went on his way round in the morning doing the park check. He would always say hello to it. And it's just bizarre. This is bizarre what people do when they're stuck on their own all day.
That sounds great. And also the park check, is that part of a when you're like a municipal gardener like that, you've got to go round with you and do the once over?
Yeah, it happens in all parks, but I was fortunate enough to work in some of the better places. It was always I was always told by my boss in the morning, before you did anything, before you picked any tools up, walk your area. Not just looking for vandalism, but looking for maybe a limb had come off a tree or your drain had blocked, and so you can miss these things if you're not looking for them all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, just do a check. You might find a broken bottle one day, but the next day you might notice a disease or an infection or a broken limb, and that changes your whole plan for the day. Then. So,
yes.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like a lovely job. Get to work, have a brew, then a little wander around the garden. Sounds beautiful.
Well, walk around with your brew. That was always my thing, walking around with a cup of tea.
Yeah, very nice, very nice, very British. Excuse me, over to you, Anna. I've got you on the screen now.
So did you want me to read the question that's just come up on the screen, or just...
That is your question that you asked last week. I've just copied it up there so people can see.
Oh, yes. Yes, I was just sort of finding out if anyone had any gardening traditions or rituals that have been sort of going since ages ago and still going strong now. But I can't actually think of any myself, I don't think, apart from I do get a bit obsessed with the pest checking. I think I've occasionally got sometimes it's worked a bit too well when I sometimes mistake when I once got to know what a vine weevil looked like, I'd sometimes get excited over a bit of white stone and then not realise that it was just a bit of white stone until I sort of dropped it on the table and heard a bit of a thud. So yes, that's yes, I'm a bit of a pest checker at times, but yeah. But yes, I think one of my rituals will probably be sort of checking on the garden in the next few weeks. It's sort of gone into sort of spring explosion mode at the moment, but yes, I was just going to say, is that with the spring madness in the garden? Is that to do with knowing that plants usually like being in the dark to stimulate them, if you like? Is it happening? Or is the reason why it's all going so mad in spring is because it's had so much dark skies from winter, and it's now in spring and everything's just going berserk? Or is it weather or something else that causes it?
It's daylight hours. Yeah, that's definitely what it is. As the days get longer, the plants start to get the heat in the soil warms up that little bit more, and the plants start to germinate and race away. But it's definitely daylight hours, which is why I've waited to do my seedlings till this week, or I should have done them last week, but I've been waiting for so it stays light till after 6 o'clock here, 5:30 back in England. Once you get that longer day, that's when things start to germinate.
Yeah. I've got an interesting. I that's fascinating, Anna, the way you put that, because I'm wondering which way. This is like a gardening philosophy question.
I don't know. Just wondered about it. I don't know if I'm sort of partly thinking of the magnolia that we've got outside. When I was thinking of the question, because it's since we have lived here, it was actually short. It was actually a bit shorter than me at the time. I'm only 5 foot something, and literally in the time that we've lived here, I think it's easily about 3 of me in height, and it's got so many branches coming off it. It's sort of coming. It's pretty much in flower, and yes, and I know I've heard about the branches crossing over, and that's usually a sign of needing some serious pruning. But I think it's yes, slightly escalated the difficulty level in that one, because it's yes, one, it's absolutely huge, and I haven't got a clue how many branches it's got, but it's gone berserk out there. But I can definitely tell that spring's on the way, because it's just coming into flower now. So it's pink as well.
It's so beautiful, Anna. It's like the question you asked about the seeds, I think, a couple of weeks ago. It's a real good philosophical question, because it's like, do the plants respond to the spring, or do the plants mean it's spring, or does it all happen together? Which way? What comes first? And it's a bit like the sort of conversation you might go into if you have too much of the old hemp plant that we're talking about here. but it's like, well, which is first? What comes first in the process of nature, or is it all happening simultaneously? It's kind of mind-blowing stuff when you go into it like that. But maybe we don't want to get lost down that. Corley, you must have pondered this.
No, I don't wonder it. I know the answer. The daylight hours comes first. The right. Rotation of the Earth, the longer days, they come first. That tells everything else to react to spring. Because sometimes you can get a false. You've heard of the term false spring, when end of January, start of February, we get a nice bit of weather, things start to come up, then the cold weather hits again, and everything dies back. So it's definitely the warming of the soil, the temperature of the soil makes all the difference. And the longer days encourages the birds to pair up and start to breed. Very scientific and rational, Lee. It's not the mushrooms. It's not the mushrooms telling everything to get growing. Mushrooms will rule the world one day. Mushrooms rule the world. Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm being. Okay. Right. So, Anna, did you get any any answers to that question that you can share? Have you managed to find that?
Actually, I could check my phone. Actually, I'm not quite sure how to.
All right, we'll come back to you on that one. While you're finding that, Fiona, on the subject of pests, Lee, could you please find some pics of friends and foes of the insect world we might find as eggs pupae? Just now found a huge, ugly maggot-looking thing, 5 centimeters long by 2 centimeters thick, but it had legs in the soil yesterday. Gifted it to chickens, but then wondered if it might have been a good guy. His friend or foe? Go on, tell us more. Oh, it was a friend. It was a friend. No. Well, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell without seeing it, but it sounds very much like the hawk moth larvae. Oh yeah. They're quite large, and they have not so much legs, but little points at the front. They're not really legs, but when you start to get big things, I tend to think they're friends. Anything that's large is a friend. Oh, that's interesting, guide. Okay. All right. That's good to know. He's frozen up a bit there, I think. Oh. Okay, Carmen. Well, while Lee's connection there is sorting itself out, I'm excited to have found Peruvian ground cherry growing along a fence row on my property today. I bought a capucho plant, not knowing it was also a type of ground cherry. Does anyone cultivate this plant? And if yes, do you preserve them, such as jam? How can I nurture the wild plants growing? That's a supplementary question there. So, do you want to break that down bit by bit there, Lee? Well, I don't really know, to be honest. I kind of missed the first bit of it.
She found a what plant by the head?
A Peruvian ground cherry growing along the fence row. New one on you?
Yeah, I'll have to Google it. Ask her to send me some photographs or a photograph or two, and I'll have a look at that. I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, Carmen, would you mind putting some photos? Because that's a new one on me as well. The Capuccio, the ground cherry. Can you pop that in there? Then I'm sure that will stimulate other discussion about that and what people do.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Anna mentioned the plant from South America, the Ochre, that you used to deal with, Anna. Can you tell us a little about the Ochre while we're in South America at the moment?
I vaguely remember. I think it is linked to the potato. It does look very similar to almost like a if you could imagine like a new potato almost. I seem to remember. I'm trying to think if you can actually get two colours of ochre. For some reason, I'm thinking you can get like a yellow one, but I think the one I've mostly seen is pretty much well, probably similar red to my top actually. But I do remember when it came to harvesting it, it was a little bit it's almost a bit like a treasure hunt really when you're harvesting it. They sort of literally grow underneath the underneath the soil, and I seem to remember they were pretty easy to grow, although I haven't actually grown any since horticulture days at home. So yeah, they are quite interesting little things. I think I did actually try some once, and it was I can't actually remember the flavour of it now, but I know we had some. I think I was sort of mixed in butter or something like that. So so I did actually get to try some, but it's quite an interesting vegetable and quite easy to grow from what I remember.
Citrusy, as I recall, slightly waxy, slightly citrusy, and yeah, they were easy to grow, weren't they? And you got a good yield from them, which was at the time. Great. There's the Ochre for you. I'm aware that we've got about 10 minutes left. We want to get back to Gary's pictures. Carmen's saying though, the small yellow fruit inside a paper husk. That's sounding like a Chinese gooseberry, isn't it, Lee?
Sounds like it.
What's that called? Physalis is another. They sound connected. It doesn't sound like the same thing, but they sound very similar. Good evening, guys, from Marcos Valbon. Good evening to you, Marcus. Anna, did you have some responses to your question that you're able to find?
I did have some for the is that the gardening tradition ones?
Yeah,
I had. Yes, I had some interesting ones. Just having a look. Yes, I know. Fiona responded to that one, and yes, and sort of saying. So I think yes, I had quite a few responses. I think, and there was one which I saw to do with was sailing apples. I think it was. I saw in one reply as well, and I think I had quite a few interesting replies on that one. I think, and the compost one was also the first one that came in as well. So yes, I had about three answers to that one. So thanks to anyone who replied to that one. Yeah.
What the wassailing traditionally done for apple trees down your way, down Cornwall way, Somerset. They say you just go and shake the trees to scare the spirits away. And on years when they didn't do it, would get a poorer crop. We do it now with the orange trees. We don't pull the fruit off, we shake the fruit, and it stimulates the tree into new growth, into new root growth. There's a lot of gardeners that truly believe it's the correct method for harvesting fruit. Rather than pulling fruit off, is to shake the tree, and all the ones that are ready to fall just fall. So I always find wassailing interesting.
Yeah, it sounds nice, kinder to the tree in a way, doesn't it? To not be yanking them off, but just shaking the ones that are ready to go.
Yeah. It stimulates the tree to put down strong roots as well. It stimulates root growth.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about it.
It really does. It really does. Just resolving this, the question from the Azores tonight. Yes, gooseberry too. Ground cherry, gooseberry, capuccia, all similar possibly. Okay, so we're on the right kind of lines there. John, can you do me a favour and read out Gary's question while I find the pictures for this.
Okay, so we have a question from Gary Austin, who I think is also sending some, well, I assume gardening related pictures to Carl Munson. Anyway, but here's the question. So Gary needs some advice on what to plant in the photos. The planter on the patio is full sun and grew lettuce last year. I'll start again. The planter in the backyard is in shade and the veg patch is mixed shade sun in the afternoon. Grew cabbage and potatoes and butternut squash.
Nice one. Okay, so what do you recommend there, Lee? Those are that's the obviously the patio that the sun punishes up off the ground.
Yeah. I've already got a small image, so I'm just trying to make out what they are. But I'll just go back to my normal advice when going vegetables. Look at your list of the top 5 things that you purchase, and aim to grow those. Garlic and onions will grow well at the back. They don't mind the shade. Even carrots will go in that tub at the back.
Yeah.
The one at the front, try some hot chilies or some peppers. They don't mind the direct sunlight, or some tomatoes. But I think that's deep enough. Yeah, it looks deep enough to get some chilies and peppers in.
Yeah.
Simple to grow. They look pretty as well when you've got people walking past.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that image is.
I think that's another one of those planters up on like a little table. But he's a clever fella. He made these out of old units from the house, I think, and put them together. They're old aluminium frames of some sort, and he's repurposed them. So yeah, where it's in a really punishing situation from the sun like that, you're suggesting tomatoes and chilies and the things that really love that direct sunshine. Then carrots or garlic and onions more out the back here.
Yeah, the stuff at the back that's in the shade. Carrots grow really well in the shade and they grow quickly. Radishes do the same. Radishes don't mind being in the shade. Onions definitely don't mind the shade because they're not keen on the bright sunshine.
Yeah.
But look at your shopping list and see what the first top 5 purchases are, and always aim for growing what you eat. The stuff you eat most.
I think that's a great guide, isn't it? Rather than you're going to all the trouble of growing things you're not going to actually eat is a bit of a faff in it, an unnecessary waste of energy. Nice for your neighbours, I guess, but grow the things you love to eat. Great guide. Portugal has many gardens, and Luso near Coimbra, it's not far from me, has trees from around the world. That's a beautiful garden. Have you been there, Lee, to the Luso hotel and the grounds there?
I think we have. I think we went in my first year. It'll ring a bell. Good.
Beautiful nature.
Tell me. We've been to so many places to see the gardens. It drives us crazy.
Excellent.
Well, Lisbon and Sintra have some fantastic botanical gardens if people are visiting. I'm going to try and pronounce it. I'll probably fail miserably. Quinta de Glera in Sintra is phenomenal. I can't even describe it. Quinta de Glera, I think that's how it's pronounced.
Well done, mate.
I love the place. Yeah, it's fantastic up there.
And any country that's gone around the world with a colonial past is going to have brought interesting things back, right? I would have thought.
Yeah. The local palace to us at Cluj, they've got pineapple greenhouses.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's all things been brought back from the colonial times. But they've also got several brass statues in the garden, which I studied when I was at school. When I was at university, Cluj Palace and the gardens in Sintra were on our list for architectural study for gardens. And now I live right next to them. It's brilliant.
Cool. And then you got to see them yourself. That's amazing in your professional life.
Told you my first visit to Portugal, I landed next door to both of them, and I couldn't resist a visit.
Meant to be. Anna, did I read my friend's question? Is the message from me? I don't think you did. What was the allotment question you had, Anna?
Yeah. I admit I've only been to my friend's house once, which was quite a while ago, so I can't actually remember what the garden's like off the top of my head. And they're not actually in the group, so I might have to reload some information. But they live in Bedford. But they were wondering, when taking over an allotment, what 3 things need to be done in order of importance?
What 3 things need to be done in order of importance for an allotment?
When you take it over from someone else, though, I think, Lee, that's the thing. They've just inherited it by the sound of it.
Right, they've inherited it. Okay, so first of all, big clean up. Any debris, any old bricks that are lying around, any old bits of timber that are lying around, get rid of them, because that's where the slugs and the snails are hiding. The quicker you can clear the ground, the quicker you can clear the pests away. This is from my experience of taking over an allotment. So get rid of all the timbers, all the bricks, anything you don't want, anything you don't need, get rid of it. Secondly, prep your beds properly. Sit down and think about what you want to grow and your ability to maintain an area. If you take over a large allotment, you may find that you can only handle half of the size, or even a quarter of it. My first allotment was the size of a tennis court. So I started off at the top for the first year and then gradually built down the hill. So don't go all out all at the first season. Make sure you're not going to end up with too much to do. And then prepare the soil. The more preparations you can put in the spring to get the soil weed free and turned over and healthy, the better a growing season will be, the longer a season will be. Tell her if she wants to put some photographs on the Facebook page of the allotment.
I'll see what I can do. They're not. I'll see what I can do. They're not actually a member in the in this actual group, so I put it out on my general Facebook. But I'll see what I can sort out.
Terrific.
Yeah, because then we could give us some idea about placements and where things should be.
Great.
It's always difficult on your first year. Yeah, it's always difficult.
And you're more in an observation mode, aren't you? Which is a good idea, just to see how things shape up and get the lie of the land, literally.
Yeah, because depending where the sun comes up and where it's going to set, you don't want your taller plants to be at the front, blocking out the sunlight from your smaller plants. You need it to be on an even keel, so the plants all get the same amount of sunshine. Yeah. It's never simple when you're first taking over an allotment. It's a lot to think about.
All right. So the help is at hand there, though. John, we understand if you've got to go. Thanks for your input tonight.
I'm going to say goodbye now, so I'll be back next week. Well,
happy birthday, mate.
Yes, next week. Or is it first Monday of the month?
Ciao, John.
There we go.
Charge.
Quinta de Regulera, I presume, says Marcos. I think you're absolutely right. There's a couple more questions before we go. Everyone's been brilliant tonight with their questions. We have to resolve Gary's situation, Lee. He was asking about rotation. I need to find that, though. I've lost it in the depth of the questions there. This was I think what's to be planted after cabbage and potato. So yes, what should I grow in rotation after growing cabbage and potatoes?
I think we've possibly got a slight screen freeze.
He's frozen up as well. It's a mystery. It remains a mystery, so we'll come back to that as well. I can answer this one, Carla. Well, do they have mimosa trees in Portugal? Found an interesting article for you. Yes, introduced from Australia a little while ago. Our friend Julie Dawn Fox has written a blog about it. M is for mimosa. It's a pest. It's seen as a pest in Portugal now. But that, I mean, one person's pest is another person's delight, isn't it? But I get the point that's being made. There's probably a little bit like the eucalyptus problem. And my Australian colleague Astrid was saying there are more eucalyptus trees in Portugal than there are in Australia. That's, I'm sure, absolutely true, but a staggering fact given the scale and size of Australia and how tiny Portugal is in comparison. For you, Gary, I'd suggest kitchen herbs in the first black planter, assuming you don't have elsewhere. Thyme, coriander, oregano, and basil will like good sun. Remember to water from bottom in the evening. Leave the top of the soil to dry out a bit, though you can spray water once in a while. That's interesting, getting that watering regime right, so that you're not spraying water on the tops of plants. Spray them in the right place. Really good shout there. And of course, Fiona adds, lavender and rosemary, just because, Gary Austin. So it looks like we might have to carry some of those forward. We've lost Lee. John had to go. Lee, we've lost in action. He's
gardening again.
That's right. He couldn't resist. He couldn't be in this long. He's like a vampire in the daylight. Yes, he can't be inside too long as an outdoor guy. So we will carry those forward. If you could bring those questions back next week, that'd be awesome for you, Gary, on your crop rotation. And I know, Carmen, you had a second question, didn't you, about rutabaga? Is that the right way to say it? Did you come across that rutabaga seed, Anna, when you were gardening at Tanner's?
I have to say I've never heard of that one before, so no, completely new to me as well.
All right, so a couple of carry forward there. I got impatient and planted beet and rutabaga seeds last week. The nights are consistently 12 degrees. Do you think they'll germinate? That's definitely the sort of thing Lee would be able to answer if only he were here, and he will be back again next week at 6:15. Thanks to John, thanks to Lee, and thank you to you, Anna, and thanks to everyone who asked questions and chipped in tonight. It's been a great session. Thank you very much. Take care, and bye for now. Till logo. Ciao, ciao.